everyone, and welcome to the Native Paranormal Crossroads show. So we have Michelle and we have Jonathan here. Hello.
Hello, Dale.
Hello,
Hello.
Hello,
everybody.
John.
And so where is Stan then, guys? Today we are
Well, Stan,
we are
Stan,
Stanless today.
Stan gave me a call last night. He had a last minute other podcast to do that his publishers had arranged, and uh, didn't tell him about it immediately until the last second, of course. But he's this is in reference to his book, so hopefully he's out there having fun as we're having fun over here. He's missing out today.
So
Absolutely.
when was the book published? Then wasn't long ago, was it? What date? When was it?
Well, the launch of the book is going to be October 1st.
Okay.
It's called The Paranormal Ranger, and actually, I received a copy of it. I know it's probably backwards on the screen, but uh, I received a copy of it yesterday in the mail. I got what they call a VIP copy, since I had a little bit to do with the contents, and we'll go from there.
Outstanding. So how have things been with you, Michelle? How's things with you?
Things are well. I was not here last week. I was on a flight and had spent some time with my family. Of course, that's the summertime event, a vacation. And so I'm back in full swing and really going to be concentrating on our adventures with the Paranormal Rangers and assisting Stan and promoting him in his new book.
So here we are. We're on episode 30. Jonathan, what does it feel like to have done over 30 hours of shows and building this momentum?
When we started this, we said that if this ever feels like work, then it's going to be work. And it has not felt like work. It's because of the audience, the comments that they make and stuff. It's just been fun and totally enjoying it. Um, and we hope everybody out there is enjoying it too.
Wonderful. And Michelle, what was it like for you 30 episodes in?
It's monumental because for us, we do not lack conversation. First of all, um, people reach out and they said, "Can you talk about this and this in relationship to your cultural and belief systems within the culture? Either Navajo, whatever our native bloodlines are." And it's really been really interesting to talk with certain people about what is really real and what's not. And it's been monumental in the sense that the Rangers are very, their career was stemmed in law enforcement, and how they came into this part of the phenomena is outstanding. I mean, Jonathan and Stan have been doing this for 10 years, publicly speaking. And Jonathan has really wanted to let everybody know not to fear the phenomena. So I hope we got the message across with the 30 episodes that we've been on.
You're definitely making the paranormal normal with all this, what you're doing.
That's a good one. I like that quote. That was a good one.
And can I just say for everyone commenting, we really appreciate your comments as well. Please drop a like, subscribe. The feedback we've had for this show, and obviously interviewing and being part of this, I just want to say a great thank you for my own awareness expanding, and to just hear your stories and tales and some of the great teachings you have alongside them. So thank you, both of you.
Thank you.
So Michelle, what are we going to be talking about today then?
Well, one of the things that we discussed, and we didn't have enough time the last time we spoke about UFO, UAPs, and more. It seems like we just scratched the surface. So we were going to do a part two today. We're missing a couple of our paranormal associates here. Laura And Stan's out there doing promoting himself in the book, in the sense of that ties into his experience as being the paranormal ranger. Um, and out there, and he's still having experiences. I mean, I get texts from him that, more coins are showing up, and that's the more.
Yes.
And that's, and he will come back on the show and share that experience of what that is. They just keep appearing, and we keep having experiences on a personal level.
Wonderful. So let's begin then, Jonathan. So we talked about UFOs, and I believe last time we had, what was her name again? The lady on to talk about her experience
Yeah,
last
Rose. We had
Rose.
Rose Eckhart,
Yes. Yeah.
and she explained what happened to her in Florida back, years and years ago when she was a teenager, and yeah, it was actually really mesmerizing. I had never really heard the details about her story, and even though I've known her, one of the things that I found out is that when you know people, you don't ask them, tell me about your story, tell me about your
Mhm.
experience, go into detail, give me all the gory details, and so we don't talk about it, and it's just one of those things that it'll come out eventually. I've seen her on a few occasions. Stan gets to visit with her a lot, so he knows her a lot better than I do. But she is just a wonderful person. And some of her experiences, she literally travels around the country. And now that she's retired or semi retired, and she goes to haunted places and haunted hotels, and she likes to stay in the particular rooms that are the most haunted. And she's writing her recipe book of haunted recipes from all over the states. So she's a lot of fun to talk to, and you know, just just an amazing person.
So why don't we talk about hauntings as well? Because for a lot of people, it seems mesmerizing and something they really want to do. But what is it actually like going into a space where there's loads of ghosts? I bring Michelle in here. And just
Okay.
what awareness do you have to have, and kind of safety in effect? So people aren't just rushing and going, I want to do the same, I want to do this, and so on.
Well, it was really interesting when I first started on Skinwalker Ranch, and brought in. I was pretty much an amateur, and bringing in people who I felt that have certain gifts that that were very sensitive to energy. Were very sensitive to a lot of seeing things that normal people wouldn't see, or as you said, the paranormal has become normal. Um, and using night goggle visions. I think I've told this story before, where we were in on part of the land, and there was a hill up there that lights up, and we saw it light up, and we went over there. And one of the things you're talking about protection is we actually blessed the land in a native way as well, but also there were some Christians with us, so they prayed over the land. And as we were doing that, you could smell this sulfur smell, and we did that for our protection, and not because that's the experiences that we've had with the paranormal phenomena. And all of a sudden, I was wearing the night goggle visions, and this entity came out of the hill, and it was very happy. So I think with the blessing of protection for us, it also changed probably maybe that phenomena's way of interacting. It could have been a negative experience, and we were joyful with it. You could feel the energy was very positive, and so we started to dance with it. It was literally dancing in a wave. It was really wonderful. And I know that's a little silly because it almost sounds like Casper the Friendly Ghost, but it had that kind of feel to it. But and then I would, we would share those goggles, and people are like, "Wow, there's something right there." And that was the first contact of interacting with a paranormal entity. A ghost is we most people are familiar with it, and to interact and feel positive, that was wonderful because generally people deal with the negative. So in that way, I felt like, our prayers or our offerings, whether, they're cultural based or whatever, interacted with that entity. So that's my experience.
So, do you feel like it was so as you went to that space, you understood that offering was a sign of respect to the land and the ancestors there? And as you went there, there was such a respect within your soul, and those spirits respected you. That's what I'm feeling as you're saying that.
Oh,
Was
thank you. Yeah, it could have been. I mean, that's a good description of probably what happened at the time. You're just experiencing. You're not thinking about all the things till afterwards. You start to think, "Wow, why did that happen in that way?" and such. And positively, we could change the energy fields of, offering protection, utilizing whatever our belief systems are. I mean, Jonathan talks about, um, prayers and people going in and offering, smudging and things like that. But, we usually do that just for our own protection. Maybe we're protecting that entity as well. So that's a good way to look at it.
Well, one of the things that we found out over a lot of years is that when you go into, say, an archaeological site or any place where there's past human activity, uh, you go in with a positive frame of mind. Uh, you don't provoke things. I was told by medicine men that when I go out, there's only three people that are allowed to be on an archaeological site on Navajo Nation. That's an archaeologist, a um, medicine man doing collecting things for their ceremonies, or a Navajo Ranger. Even police officers are not supposed to go to these places. And so, it's when you consider that we had, at the time I was there, we had about 14 Rangers in the field, and we had uh, 600,000 archaeological sites that were mapped and known about or identified. And there were probably another 2.5 million that we had no idea that they were out there. And I'm protecting this stuff. So,
Mhm.
because I was a specialist. And what they told me is when you go on an archaeological site, because there's spirits there, you don't kick the ground, you don't pee on the ground, you don't spit on the ground, you don't show any sort of disrespect. That's a sacred place now, and you treat it with that kind of respect, like you're tiptoeing through there, and you let them know through your smudging and your blessing that you're there to help them, that you're not there to provoke them. So this is the key. And what you see a lot on TV with the different ghost shows and the different TV shows is that there's always this idea that we need to get something on camera. So let's see if we can provoke it and get some sign that it's there. And in provoking it, you can actually get injured.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all impatient. In the states, we do not like to you know wait for anything. We're not going to sit there and say, if you want to manifest, you feel welcome to. We're going to say, I want to poke you with a stick and make you do something. And that goes back to little boys, poking frogs with sticks to make them move or to throw rocks at things. You know, that's just little boy uh, mentality, and we don't want to do that. We really want to be respectful of the places we're at, and with this realization that that energy permeates just about everything around us.
So
Yeah,
as
what about yourself? I know you've had some experiences with.
yeah, so for me as I'm going into a place, and like example, I'll go into a place where I know there's loads of ghosts. One of the things is lifts, and it was my daughter Opal picked it up as well, because I was as we kept going to Sainsbury's each day, there was a lift, and she said, I'm not going in there. And it was like, as I saw the lift, you could see there's loads of ghosts in the lift waiting for people. So I
Mhm,
ended up going up the stairs. But there was, for me, it's all about being in the body, being grounded, being respectful, not trying to entangle with anybody, not trying to force a conversation, and just, I think without fear, that's the best place to be, because soon as you're in fear and worry, and if you go into a site where there's loads of ghosts and there's high energy, you're going to get
mhm.
your ass whooped, or you're going to start feeling really ill, or you're going to have a negative experience. So for me, it's all about being grounded, being confident, being respectful. Like you say, is one of the best things you can possibly do. I give offerings of tobacco to different places of the land. I create soups of ancestral offerings with my prayer into it as well. So when I go to a space where I know there's something negative, not so much negative, but I get this sign and message, yes, it's okay, you can give an offering here. So there's always like that understanding of what offering is needed, and so on. So I think being in the body and being grounded is one of the best ways you can do. And don't be curious, don't be really curious as you go in. Like Jonathan said, don't start poking at things you shouldn't be poking at, because I've had experiences of that a long time ago, where I poked this reptilian being was staring at me, and this was back 12 years ago when I didn't really have an understanding about everything. So I poked him back, and as I poked him, he threw all of this high energy at me, and I was like, right, that's a huge lesson for me there. So I had my own, understanding from my own lessons of doing a mistake in the past. So don't go poking people. That's the lesson I always, from then I never did it again. I had full respect, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do this again.
You know,
Michelle, you've got a
I saw that
question,
comment.
yeah, from David, and I thought maybe you could address that a little bit.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. There was a conference that was up in Vernal, Utah, that was sponsored by Dwayne Ollinger's Outpost. Dwayne is a friend. He has been very kind to allow people on his ranch to experience the phenomena that he has there. People like to dispel the fact that things happen there. Um, you know, the experiences are UFO and UAP related and such. So um, I'm trying to remember what I said on the panel because that was a few years ago. But I've had even during that conference, myself and Charlie Snyder, who's also a cast member on the Mystery of Blind Frog Ranch, had a paranormal experience at that conference when we were sitting in the outpost on a late night speaking with some women about the experiences they've had on the ranch. Charlie and I like to listen more, but as we were listening to their experiences, and I'll share this one. I don't know if this is the one I shared on the panel. Um, we all of a sudden I'm seeing this, like I thought it was a teenager running past the outpost front door, and it was open because it was a warm, warm night, and we had the fans going as well. And she was in a yellow, this I thought these teenagers were running past and ducking down in front of the storefront window. And all of a sudden I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, why are these kids running past the front door and looking in and kind of giggling? And it was this one particular girl that would look in. And finally I said to her, I said, come on in and join the party. And Charlie kind of nudges me and with his arm, he says, Michelle, that is not that is not a teenager, and that those aren't kids. That's a little girl, and she's a ghost." And I said, "Oh, wow." And he goes, "I've been watching her too while I was listening to the ladies here." And all of a sudden, the women's, heads whip around, and the little girl looked inside the window and just stood there, and we all saw her. And so, I know, David, I hope that's the one, that I told, but I've had different experiences with seeing UFOs on the ranch of his ranch. So there would be certain spots that we were able to traverse on his land, and but every time I would visit Blind Frog Ranch, I just have to look in the sky because it was very predictable you would see a UFO. And some it would be white. I do have photos of that, and had I know that somebody would bring this up, could have shared those. But these things were cylindrical in nature, and it would go really slow across the sky. But every time I'd show up, there you go, they would show up. And so I've had the sightings of Bigfoot there. So those are the kind of phenomena that I had there on Blind Frog Ranch. But that particular night, at the conference itself, and then on the second night that we were there, the same women showed up because they wanted to have another experience, and we did. Apparently, there was something in a vortex, or an opening that was there, and we saw giants, which are very well known there in the Uinta Basin. A lot of them have been spotted. The giant, even relics of bones and things are there on private lands. And I can't reveal whose lands they are, but on the ranches, people have found relics of bones that go back prehistorically speaking. Um, and then we saw these giants, and what was so funny about it, it's very positive, is this thing was very lerpy. It was watching, a lerpy giant walking across that, and we watched it with the ladies, and we again giggled about it. So I hope, David, that answered your questions a little bit. You can, there is activity definitely on Blind Frog Ranch, and
Yeah,
it is
one of
with
the
it. Jonathan, you were there.
things that a criminal investigator, and my job is to go after people doing resource
Mhm.
crimes, especially archaeological resources, forestry, fish and wildlife, water resources, minerals, um, and and also the regular police work in the park areas. We were the park police. Now, I've also been in a regular police department where we did homicides, we did sexual assaults, child molestations, we used to I used to call it bench pressing drunks, because you would literally be picking up drunks every single day, and sometimes carrying them to the vehicle and putting them in and taking them for a medical exam, and then jail. And in all of this stuff, you're always looking for why. Why do these things happen? What's going on here? What's causing these things? Um, and you start taking notice that at certain times of the month, especially when the full moon comes up, you start seeing what they classify as lunatics, people that are just going nuts. And if you research it enough, you find that you have a phenomenon with negative and positive ions in the atmosphere. Uh, negative ions are actually good for you. You can get negative ion generators for your house. It's like just after a lightning storm, the air is nice and charged, and it makes you feel good. It's good for your health. Positive ions are not good for you. Um, Positive ions create what they call a hyperserotonin effect in the body, which means that when you breathe in positive ions, these ions go right into your bloodstream through your lungs and they circulate to your brain. And they can cause discomfort. They can give you flu symptoms, sore throat, runny nose, itchy eyes, all the feelings of like you're getting a flu, headaches, migraines, all that kind of stuff. And just on during the lunar cycle, when you get a full moon, there's an increase in the atmosphere of positive ions. And so now they're starting to think, and numerous colleges have done studies on this. They think that there's a link to why people are affected by this and why they started calling them, they're getting a tick, they're going a little crazy. So, they're, and during those times when I was a police officer, you did not talk about the full moon to save your life. You didn't go in the station and say, "Look, there's a full moon out there," because everybody would be going, "Shut up!" We don't want to be reminded of one of those nights. So, but with all this, we started the point of this is that we started looking at what is the cause of all this stuff um, going on. Um, what it, what is causing it? And me and Stan looked at it back in 2006, and we came up with a theory. And I'm going to fill you in. I'm going to give you the 411 on the theory. We started thinking that there could be uh, the one thing that links them all together is this idea of multi dimensions, that these things are coming through from another dimensional plane. Now, we've been taught that dimensions are kind of like walls right next to each other, walls and walls. There could be 10 or 12, there could be an infinite number. And, we think in those terms, but I think of dimensions like clouds. They're kind of immaterial. They can weave together and connect with each other, and these dimensional gates could appear and disappear and reappear, just randomly. And so we started saying, you know, we saw Bigfoot, and we saw Bigfoot actually, in some cases, disappearing. We've had numerous reports that Bigfoot vanished in front of somebody's eyes, or they watched them as they faded out from, sitting behind a tree. We started looking at hauntings, that they were taking place at a time of day or a time of night around 3 to 3:30, which everybody says is the witching hour. But this is the time when there's less radiation bombardment of the sun side of the earth, and there's almost a vacuum there, and it's allowing other energies to leak out and maybe come through from other dimensions. UFOs were seen to pop into existence. Some people told us that the pop was so loud it struck you like a physical force, and it startled them, and they thought there was an explosion somewhere. And they went out, and there's a UFO sitting right over the top of their house. So then they would fly around, and then they would just fade out. Uh, when you think about UFOs, everybody says, "Oh, they're interstellar. They came from millions of light years away, and they live forever." I couldn't see why anybody would want to come and visit us. So,
Comedy
yeah,
show. That's
yeah,
why.
we're just way too violent. Grab them,
Comedy show.
stick a pin through them, and put them in our collection. So, we don't. I think there's a big sign out there that says violent people do not contact. Um, but irregardless, if things were coming, even our future selves were coming in from a different dimension,
Right.
then it makes sense. And they wouldn't have to travel millions of light years to get here. And there's an infinite number of dimensions, there's an infinite number of possibilities of different peoples at different stages of development coming through, which is why we see different types of craft. And we have different, some people, they have experiences and they say, oh, the aliens are just so wonderful. They're here to help us. Other people, they get the anal probe and they're not too happy about it, where they get put on a table and literally just as close to dissection as you can get, and they're traumatized for the rest of their lives. And they go through reverse hypnotic regression, and they find out what happened to them, and they are just they're devastated. They're never the same people. So with all of this stuff going on, that seems the most likely thing. And me and Stan started talking about it in 2010.
Hmm.
We came up with the theory in 2006. And in 2013, we presented it at the International UFO Congress uh, in, uh, um, in near Scottsdale. And when we did, it was uh, it was a theory that was kind of out there, but nobody really addressed it. And I think we were some of the first. And now, when you look at the TV, everybody's talking about dimensions, dimensional gates, the ATIP program. One of the 22 things that they were asked scientists to look into was dimensional gates and faster than
Hmm.
light travel. And the Large Hadron Collider even tried to do an experiment to open up a dimensional gate and send a message through. So there's scientific inquiry into this. And even Nikola Tesla's 369 theory of energy, frequency, and vibration, and how that could be used to open a possible dimensional gate. So there's a lot of information out there. Um,
I,
but modern science, of course, wants something that's repeatable, and they want to be able to. And again, we try not to poke things with a stick. We try to be respectful. It's for our safety. If you get into a poltergeist activity area, it could actually be pretty dangerous. I've seen laptop batteries fly over 50 feet across a room and smack into a wall. Vases explode from the inside out. Um, things being moved all around. You never know. I've had scratches appear on my arm
Right.
that
Right.
spiraled down, around. And the next morning, I couldn't figure out how that scratch got there.
wow.
Um,
I've had
Stan's
the
got
same.
scratches. So, and one he never talked about, and I'll talk about it. He heard something in the hall. They had a ghost in a long hallway where he had his office, and he went outside to inspect after he heard what sounded like a rubber ball bouncing. And when he went out there, he walked into an area of intense cold, and he leaned over to pick something up off the floor. And as he did, when you have glasses and you have the old um, what do they call that, chromatic coating on it that would change,
Hmm.
that would change. It would darken when you went in the sunlight, and it would lighten when you get inside. Well, those were notorious. If you had them for a year or more, they would start going bad, and they would get dark, and they'd stay dark. Well, if you know Stan, he's trying to hold on to stuff for as long as he can because the glasses are expensive. And he leaned over, and his glasses cracked. The surface film on there just they call it crazing. You'll see it with very, very old guitars that just get the spider webs of little cracks all over the finish. And
Mm-hmm.
due to the nitrocellulose that they used to use on the guitars on acoustics. So this happened to his glasses. It had all these little fine spiderweb cracks all over it. He took it in to the optometrist and they looked at it and they said, your glasses were subjected to an extreme change in temperature from about 98 degrees, which it was in that building, to somewhere around zero, and that caused the finish of your glasses to crack. So I told him, make sure you save those because they're going to be uh, valuable one of these days. Um, so I think he still has them somewhere in his storage. He's got a whole room just full of junk. He's
Wow.
single, ladies. He's single. So,
So,
but he did save them and he still has them. And just to give everybody a clue, uh, because his book is coming out in October, um, we're going to save it till probably later on in October when everybody kind of gets a chance to look at the book and maybe read it. We're going to open it up. We're going to ask him questions.
That's right.
We're going to have a book episode where you're going to be able to ask questions specifically about the book and the stories behind some of the things that he talks about. So, just to give you a heads up on what's coming down the line here.
Jonathan, you spoke about temperature, and it's really interesting. Anytime the phenomena would show up, the temperature would drop anywhere 10 to 20 degrees, become very cold in the atmosphere. And, that is really interesting to me because that's a scientific, relatively, what are we dealing with within those multidimensional states? Is there a transition between our world and then a world that we're unfamiliar, or is it the in between? And I saw this tons of times when I was working when I was on the ranch, that any phenomena experience I had, the temperature would get really cold and you could see the breath. I had phenomena with the dire wolf, seeing that. The animal life would change. Their sixth sense would come in existence. So there are other types of multidimensional state phenomena that show up, and the environment gets infected and by those experiences of phenomena showing up afterwards.
On the ranch, they've documented it several times where temperature changes in the
Right.
extreme occurred. Uh, on Beyond Skinwalker episode,
Mhm.
where we went into the canyon, we actually saw temperature drop to
Right.
15 degrees down,
Yep.
and, and they
Yep.
were able to. The drumming stopped because the drummer Art and the other guy changed places, and then the other guy was drumming and Art was singing, and during that time the temperature climbed again.
Right.
Then when they started singing, the temperature dropped again, and so that showed it was repeatable, and which is a scientific thing. So
A
yeah, there's
harmonic frequency. Yeah.
lots of evidence that that these things are dimensional.
That's the way I gauged it when I knew I was going to have experience. When things, when we were dealing with that particular night, I spoke about the entity showing up and a sulfur smell. There were environmental things that occur. And then that particular night, too, 11 of us was witness to a UAP, a mothership, and a huge ship. I think I've told this story over, too, where 11 of us were witness to a ship coming forward. Two of them were scout ships. They came and they communicated through telepathy, saying if they had come on the ranch or landed there, that there would be and also a problem with the radiation affecting them and also us. There's another scientific methodology there we need to look at. But there's a lot involved when you're experiencing identifying UAPs, UFOs. The environment gets infected. You get affected by everything that's surrounding you. Your mind is going crazy. Like, is this really happening? And then what happens after you have an experience of this type? Did I see what I saw? Is my reality my reality? So people go through that too. And that's why when you said earlier, Jonathan, we don't ask about their experiences because this could traumatize somebody. I have talked with pilots who have flown and they have seen these type of phenomena. They don't know how to get their heads around it. And so they go, and the body is triggered by this event. And because they're used to flying a mission, and then all of a sudden they're seeing things that they've never seen before, and their body gets affected, and they start to go through a process to the point where some of them have related suicidal experiences, where they couldn't share the experiences, but yet they were traumatized by it. So that's the thing that, that people, we don't talk about usually on shows is how do we overcome that? How do we heal that? How do we express that?
Because if you think it's like if the loads of UFOs came down and just walked on the streets, just imagine what it'd do to people's brains who weren't ready for that. It would completely
Exactly.
the brain wouldn't be able to capacitate what was going on, and they'd probably end up dead or something crazy would happen. But I feel like it's all about searching within the self, the infinite self, going in stillness and so on. If you're ready for that type of thing and learn and practice stuff like that, I think it would be easier because you have an understanding, a little understanding of what the universe is, just a tiny bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a trauma phase that you go through. I am sharing this because I personally went through this. And and the more you talk with people, you were afraid to talk because you were afraid of the ridicule that would have come, in your occupation. People look at you like, okay, are you going nuts? Do I need to commit you? You go through these things. And so people have, even with paranormal experiences, people don't know quite. And that's why it's so, oh, I had this really paranormal experience. And then, I know that we have talked on the show, do not fear. These guys are trained. Jonathan and Stan were trained not to be affected by fear. But as a human being, your body still goes through those phases.
So I'd like to share. So as Jonathan, you mentioned a guitar earlier, and it reminded me of an experience I had, which I haven't told many people, but I feel like I can say it on the show. Was so I think the day before Donald Trump got shot, I woke up from a dream, but in this dream was Jimi Hendrix, and he was walking down a road with a guitar playing Voodoo Child, and it was like I was completely in a spirit world. There was rainbow, and as I woke up in the dream, I just go, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, because it was really high energy. And he walks down the street playing Voodoo Child. He comes up to me, grabs my hand, and hugs me. And this has tested my reality because as I woke, I knew to type in Jimi Hendrix on YouTube. I typed in Jimi Hendrix on YouTube and saw a concert live in Maui in 1970, and I saw myself in the crowd. So this was,
Hmm.
and I'll show you guys that this tested my reality because as soon as I woke up from that dream, I put the laptop up and I put Jimi Hendrix, and the first YouTube video is live in Maui, Voodoo Child, and I went
Mhm.
towards the end and I could see myself dancing, exactly my same hair, my beard, my body, and the way I move and I grab my beard, and it really tested my reality. And I was like, Andrew was like, you've time traveling. I was like, okay. And so that for me, like you say, did bring up a tiny bit of fear, because I was like, my brain was like, this isn't real, is it? But it is.
We
Well,
run into that stuff every now
yes.
and then,
Yeah.
and it does just it makes your brain jump.
It
Yes.
And
does.
I was
you
like,
know,
am I going crazy? I was like, am I seeing this or am I going crazy? No, you're seeing it.
when Michelle and Stan and myself went to Toronto on the very
Hmm.
last day of the conference, we're we're all talking and everything, and this church group was coming in to take, so we had to get off stage, and they were going to take over the auditorium there and use that for their church services. When the pastor came in for that group, he looked exactly like me.
Wow.
And I think everybody kind of did a double take.
Yeah,
And
you
I
did.
had to go up there. I shook his hand. And you know, people
Wait a
probably
minute. Wait a minute. My spiritual side.
and and stupid me, I should have asked somebody to take a picture of us, and I didn't. So, but we're going back there again next year. So we're gonna hopefully I'll run into him again, and we'll sit down, have coffee, and
Go for
take
a
some
coffee.
pictures. And I've had other people over here. There's another officer up on Hopi that looked exactly like me, and I get called out when I'm in Flagstaff all the time. Oh, are you so and so? Oh, I thought you were so and so. You look just like him. So
Your angle doppler, right?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy. And Dale, thank you for sharing that. That
I was
because time travel also is a phenomena. You know, we can be
I'll
taken.
try and see if I can show you a picture of it. 1 second.
Oh,
And
Dale, Dale
do
in
you
the
know
past.
Do you know what the
Yeah.
funny thing was? So this T-shirt I'm wearing now, I had one of these T-shirts on. It had similar logo, but it was a yellow T-shirt, and I always wear white chinos, and I had white chinos on, and I like all throughout my life I wore white chinos. I was like, and I was holding my beard like that as the camera was going, and he was playing it, zoomed into the crowd, and I'm there like moving around, just holding my beard. And you can see my nose. My nose is very pointy, and I was like, you can tell by the way it moves. I'll have to upload it.
I
But
would
it
love to
complete,
see that.
yeah.
That is
Um,
crazy. Back to the Future. I guess that's what they
yes,
call that.
yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
It was interesting as well, because afterwards it was like I felt that Jimi Hendrix. It was in the dream, and I met him, and I've met him before, but he was reminding me of his time to speak my voice and play my own guitar. Because at a younger age, I didn't play music, and I've
Uh-huh.
had it suppressed in me for so long. So that was a huge. It was like a lesson within a dream, basically. Are you ready to rock and roll again and start playing guitar? And I was like, yep. I haven't done it in a while, but I kind of lost that part of me, that creative part of me. So there was a much deeper meaning I felt there in the dream as well.
Those okay, so because you revealed yesterday was a really interesting day. We had a cloud cover with a lot of lightning, and my daughter-in-law, we love to do outdoor movies. And Jonathan and I were talking, and as I was setting up the movie to view that night, the clouds came in, and it just poured and poured, and luckily everything was protected by a tent. Um, I could feel spirits around me yesterday, and the lightning was so intense. I was told to move in, get in the house, because and it happened at 11 o'clock last night. And I told my daughter-in-law, I said, don't you see these people around us? like because she has similar gifts, and I said, don't you, I've seen people all around us. And she goes, Mom, I don't quite understand that, but don't you feel it? And she goes, and then we had this conversation. I said, I think we have paranormal moments that we don't, and we call them spirits, and they're there to protect us, ancestors, whatever we want to call that. We we look to the paranormal experience of seeing ghosts, and we've been talking from the perspective of ghosts, but what about ancestors that are around us protecting us? That's a multi-dimensional state, you know. And I felt like yesterday I had ancestors with me protecting us, possibly from a lightning situation. You never know. And those are also paranormal events.
Beautiful. So
One of the
yeah, I
things
love
that
that.
that just occurred to me too is, if you can imagine, you are sleeping 2, 3 in the morning, you're deep, deep sleep,
Hmm.
and suddenly here's a room full of people all around you, poking at you with sticks and waking you up, and doing all kinds of stuff, hopping around, smoking cigarettes, doing everything in your room that you can imagine, even peeing in the corner. How would you feel? You'd feel pretty violated and you'd get upset.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we often say that dead people are sleeping. Those spirits are sleeping, they're resting. And
Hmm.
that's what I mean by having that kind of respect, that you don't provoke them, you don't wake them up, so to speak. And Navajos, they're very attached to the earth, they're very attached to the land, and they stay away from places where people have died. They stay away from places where lightning has struck. uh, People say, oh, that's just superstition, but there is there is a basis for those.
Yes,
And they live out there all the time, they sense this stuff, and they stay away from it so that they don't get injured.
wonderful. So, guys, I've got it uploaded finally. Here we go. So, this is just a screenshot going on here. So, give it a sec. So,
Can
it's
you blow
hard
that
because you
up?
can't zoom in, but give me a sec. Yeah, I'll blow it up. I'll zoom in on my phone, and I'll blow it up for you. So, yeah, I've got it now.
I think we've all had our paranormal experiences with our ancestors, and we got to learn how to distinguish from experiences like Jonathan had and Stan had while they were out in the field. We're seeing things thrown, you're having negative energies being things that, you know, we need to distinguish between those two types of experiences, our ancestral guides and spirits, as some people say. Um, there's a reason why that happened to me and my daughter-in-law yesterday, to be protected possibly from a potential hazard that could have occurred. But what was really interesting about those situations, all of a sudden it was like lightning was striking in our air. The wind came up and it only lasted for like 5 minutes and then it would go away. Only over our house, by the way. And then it would clear out. And then I would get like, come on, weather gods, work with me. Because we wanted to have a nice evening together, right?
Right.
Are we waiting for
So I
that to
think
blow up? Dawn, why don't you talk about the time at
my
your
internet's
house that
really
you had
slow.
go up? That's okay.
Sorry, guys. I'm my internet's it's all echoing on my side. I've got it now. There, it should be up now.
Yeah, so anyway, we've been working with that theory of inner different dimensions, and there's a lot in science that's pointing toward that now.
Hmm.
Um, And I'm of the opinion that when you come up with a theory like that, you test it, you put it out there, you say, okay, prove it wrong, and nobody's been able to prove it wrong. There's no other information that it's come through to say, that this is the real reason, and so that theory still stands as far as I know, and we'll just keep it going. It's
Yes,
the only theory that works and that actually covers all the different phenomenon to this date.
Hey, Dale,
beautiful. Here we go. I've got it now.
did,
So this is
Oh,
this is
there
as
it is.
okay,
best I can
I'm
do.
going to go to a different screen. Oh, maybe not. That's not going to work. Let's
So can
maybe
you see that? Okay,
maybe
that's.
blow that up. I'm trying to get us out of the picture. Hold on. Sorry about that, guys.
I don't think you'll be able to, Michelle. I think it'll always be on at least one. So there I am to the right, and with the blonde
Oh,
hair
yeah,
and
there you are.
yeah. So that was Maui 1970, and that was when Jimi Hendrix was playing Voodoo Child. I'm in frame for about a good 20 seconds, I think 30 seconds, and you can see me moving around dancing, and I move exactly like I move. Like there's no doubt in my mind it's me, and yeah, that was an exceptional experience to wake up from the dream with him, to be able to turn it on, have a knowingness that's I needed to type that in, do that, and I saw myself in the past.
And that was the past picture right there.
Yes, from 1970. And Andrew was like, "You found yourself time traveling." I was like, "Okay." So yeah, really,
I love Andrew's descriptive narratives because it's like he knows what happened to you or what the situation was.
that's it. And for me, I don't really want to know the ins and outs of it. I just see it as a great like Andrew tells me one thing, but before I used to ask him loads of questions, but now I don't because I feel like I ask there's too many questions to ask, and I feel like sometimes it's great to figure it out on my own what that meaning means, and in the future I can understand what it truly means more and more. I think some experiences are important to get all the questions, but that experience for me, I feel like I'm unraveling it myself, happening around me, and so on. But that's something that's very special, and I thought I'd share it because, as you said, Jonathan, you mentioned time travel. You're talking about a guitar, and they're like, "Just say it." And I was like, "Okay, I'll just share the experience." So I'm glad I've shared.
Uh,
I was born, David, in 1989. Yeah, so that was pre birth.
Wow, that is really interesting.
yeah, you gotta get a pitch, take that and blow it up a little bit,
Yes, I
and
will.
then make yourself a 8 by 10 glossy and hang it on the wall.
Yes, back. Remember that party? That concert was great.
Yeah,
Wow, what a show! What a show! Each week, like the show's just building such a great momentum, and it just feels like I'm sat with you having coffee or something when we're speaking,
Yeah, the
friends chatting.
conversation.
well, it's like we always say, we live in a much stranger world than we realize, and there is a whole experience out there waiting if people just open their eyes. And what we're doing is we're looking inside ourselves and we're trying to understand ourselves. This self-reflection that's necessary for us to grow. Because if we just follow along blindly with everybody else and do what everybody else does, then it doesn't make much sense. We're just we just keep on going.
Right.
We listen to everybody that tells us, well, this is what happened, this is history, you know. And I was watching a comedian the other night. He was saying that this idea that the pilgrims came over here to for freedom, and for freedom of religion and all this stuff. And he says they didn't come over here for that. They came over here because they were losers. They, they had to leave their country. Um, and they came over here for a lot of different reasons. But his point was that you know what we think is often not really true. They came over here for riches. They came over here for gold, for tobacco, for mass timber, potash,
Yeah.
silver, copper. They came over here to exploit for a lot of different reasons because this was a new land. And they came over here and they made their fortunes. And a lot of them came over here and died and starved to death and whatever. But enough of them came that they just kept coming. And yet today, we say, oh, we can't have any illegals here. You know, what if the Native Americans back then had said, hey, get your homeland security together, no illegal aliens coming to these shores? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, even the Statue of Liberty says, bring me you're weak, you're tired, you're hungry. And, and she stands there saying, we'll welcome you. So, in here I am making a political statement. Um, my people were subject to systematic genocide. Same with Michelle's people
Yes.
and Stan's, and
Hmm.
we survived. And we're going to keep on going. Native Americans didn't even get the right to vote until I think the 1940s, when around
It
just
was the
after the
men, not
women
the
got
women. Yeah.
yeah, and it was
Hmm.
just the men. So there's a lot about history um, that just turns the whole table on what's really going on. Remember, our founding fathers, many of them were deists. They believed that there was a God, that he set everything in motion and then left it going. So, it wasn't all this thing about, religious, that we were founded on religion. Uh, our government actually set it up in the Constitution that there was a division
Yeah.
between
Right.
church and state.
Right.
Um, so it's not about religion. It's not about politics. It's not about all this stuff. But we want you to look not at the outside world and make decisions based on that. We want you to look inside yourself and find the real person in there that needs to come out.
Hmm.
Wow.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's really interesting. You talk about history. You know, Christopher Columbus was sent over to find gold and not new lands. And Queen Isabella was looking because her treasury was empty. And so when you embark on a culture of civilization and destroy its very traditions, its beliefs, its cultural nuances, and you destroy that, you destroy knowledge. And so the reason why we come on as paranormal rangers is to give people the knowledge by our experiences, because if one day we are contacted by I don't like using the alien word, by an entity, nations, are we ready to welcome them? Just as like Jonathan says, we're just trying to deal with the human race. What about, I mean, President Reagan? And by the way, that movie is wonderful. Go see it. And I'm sorry, that's another political statement there, but it was an era that I grew up in, get a reporter, but it was a wonderful era. We've lost that confidence in our democracy. But anyways, go see that movie. But what I'm trying to say is President Reagan did make a statement saying that one day we would have to deal with another nation that's not of our earth. And how are we going to be as a nation to accept them or not. So interesting that we ended on this.
And on that bombshell,
Yes.
To be continued.
Go see the movie. But no, it's been a fantastic conversation today, and I appreciate everybody who is our audience and the comments. And I'm so glad you guys could come on and enjoy the conversation. Um, we're not a scripted show. We actually, this is our experiences with how we feel, what we've experienced, and our sharing our culture, what we know about our culture.
and we're still working. Excuse me. We're still working on ourselves. It's a never ending thing to discover
Exactly.
yourself.
Yes.
And it's not going to stop until they plant me, or as they say in Britain, slot me.
Oh, yeah.
And we continue to have our experiences with the unknown and the phenomena. We do. I mean, coins, I have it, Jonathan has it, and we share it with each other at times when we, and because we tried to okay, understand, okay, why is this happening? Why are we having these experiences?
Well, we can't beat going to a concert with Jimi Hendrix.
No, I would love to, but I got to see
We're
Sacagawea
all
at my
vicariously
school.
living it with you.
I know. Strum a guitar.
Wow, what a show. Thank you so much. And you talking about ancestors, I see you guys as ancestors as well. And it's an absolute honor to work alongside you and share these
Thank
shows
you.
with you. They're so much
Same with
fun.
you.
Thank you.
You and Laura and Andrew have been wonderful, and I know that everybody's living life,
Uh,
and it's been a while. We hope to have Stan back at some
Yes.
point.
yeah. And
Get his
thank you,
book.
everybody, for being patient and listening to us flap our lips over here.
And we have to chuckle sometimes. So
Yes.
have a great day. Have a great week, and go make it a great day.
And remember to subscribe